Good Tuesday morning. Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is Jeremy coming at you once again with the Redtired podcast, and I'm a little under the weather, but we're going to get through this. And, of course, I'm joined by Jacob Valdez. No catchy intro today because I'm just not on my game. So, good morning, Jacob.
Hey, good morning, sir. How you feeling? A little bit better?
How do I look?
The same.
Fake. This is all fake. I woke up this morning and I was just like, you know what? I don't want to do anything. I want to go right back to bed. And of course I didn't. Got my coffee going. I'm up for the day. Let's do this.
Yep, let's do this. Hey, before we get started, one thing I forgot to mention earlier before we started recording is I bumped into a really large hidden community of veterans that are independent filmmakers. And it was over 100 of them in this Facebook page that I was now part of. And I kind of just want to let everyone, just let all our listeners know that, you know, there are other ways to still be creative and still be part of the brethren that you kind of miss in the military. And just look out for some different types of groups that are out there. They're kind of like part of your hobbies. If you like to play video games, I know there's like a veterans base there, but I was just messing around on Facebook and I stumbled on this group and it was nothing but positive stuff and a lot of support. And I was like thinking like, man, you really don't get that much unless you're part of like a veteran type, you know, brotherhood. You know what I'm saying, Jeremy? So I thought that was pretty neat. And how I was reading the kind of like the feed of what they're saying, like, oh man, I'll help you out. You live in the same area, let's meet here. You know, it's kind of neat.
Yeah, veterans have a really good track record of jumping in and taking care of one another and making sure that we're all successful in everything that we do. And so there's small veteran groups for just about everything. And you know, and it's, I'm not going to take away from civilians. Like they don't have any of that thing, but it seems far less prevalent in the civilian sector.
And I feel like it's a lot more tighter too, kind of like more reliable. If someone says they're going to do something, you know, like 90% chance is like
we understand each other to that degree, to a much like on a much deeper level. We all know kind of the same struggles that we went through together. It's kind of like the Alcoholics Anonymous. They always get together and they're always having cookouts and developing relationship and whatnot. And it's all based on the same struggle that they went through. Yep. So it's all about community. So there you have it. Thanks for tuning in to Redtired podcast. We'll see you later.
You're like, it's that kind of day, huh? Yeah, man, allergies hit me this morning. It was insane. I don't know what's in the weather, Jeremy. I don't know. And I can't say that I'm the one that got you sick because I haven't seen you.
Oh, I know it wasn't you. It was, you know, my kids go to school and they probably interacted with one of the other kids that got sick and they just became a carrier and brought it home. And I just happened to be the lucky guy that licked the wrong spoon or whatever.
Out of all the serving spoons in Thanksgiving.
Yep. Because it wasn't the turkey. I know that the turkey was on point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Of course. Come on. Me. I make a killer turkey.
So let's jump right into it, I guess. If you want to start off, let's start off with the most important amendment, I think, in the Constitution. I
want to go back to this turkey thing for a minute. No, I'm just kidding. Well, no, the secret is putting fruit in there. Anyways, so moving forward.
Yeah, Supreme Court has taken a gun case after nearly almost a decade.
Yeah. It's I think it's actually long overdue.
Yeah. It's funny that out of all the states in the United States, they're going after the biggest one that's against firearms. New York.
The biggest one?
I think so. I think they're more strict than California.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're talking about New York City now, aren't we?
Yep.
Okay, so versus the entire state of California.
California.
I don't know, man. I might have to fact check you on that one. But yeah, they're pushing some crazy stuff up north. I don't know what's going on up there, but you know, my thought process is like, you know, if I had to be in that bitter cold 6 months out of the year and I had to walk absolutely everywhere that I went, I'd probably be angry and bitter too.
It's funny is that if you look at the article, and we're putting the article below, the first picture you see is a guy saying, "I'm a gun owner in California," kind of hat. I thought that was funny.
Gun owners of California.
Yeah.
That's and you know what? It's funny because you would think like, oh, well, it's California, so there's probably not a whole lot of gun owners there. No, quite the opposite. California is extremely divided politically and constitutionally. It just so happens that the big metro areas, the big heavily populated areas, they're the ones that implement all this crazy left-wing crap. And you've got all these like farmers and ranchers and things like that live up in Northern California, and they just want to be left alone, quit taxing me to death. Mm-hmm. And they're normal people like you and me. I mean, almost have Texas in
citizens.
Their blood. Yep. Yeah. So anyway, so let's get onto this story. It's a Fox News source, and I guess, Jacob, you're hinting that you want me to read it since I sound so so deep and sexy.
I was gonna read it.
Yeah, well.
All right. The Supreme Court took up its first major gun control case in nearly a decade on Monday, hearing arguments and dispute between a gun advocacy group and New York over a statute that restricts the transportation of firearms outside city limits, even when licensed, locked, and unloaded. So you can't even go anywhere.
That first paragraph, we already got to stop.
Yeah,
you can't carry your firearm outside of the city.
I wonder if like it's so restrained, like once you purchase the gun at the gun store, you can't leave the gun store. You have to live there.
How does that work?
No idea.
You can only take this firearm to these approved ranges. And what? Okay. Go on.
Yeah, right. All right. The city statute was later amended, but the court heard arguments over the original measure anyway, in a case that could have ramifications for local gun laws. The fact that the high courts even considered the case, New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus City of New York, prompted the stunning complaint earlier this year from Democrat senators who filed a brief essentially threatening to pack the courts absent changes. That means nothing.
Yeah.
What is New York's problem?
I think I just broke it down pretty well for you. It's extremely cold up there, and when you're cold, you're bitter and angry. And so when you're cold, bitter, and angry, you probably enjoy
laying in your bed of money.
No, you enjoy bringing other people down with you. I mean, New York is not known as a friendly city. That's common knowledge. Mm-hmm. We've had, I mean, if you like go back and look at some of the Seinfeld episodes, there's nothing friendly about New York. It's almost like, of course, this is Seinfeld. It's TV, so it's not real life. But you take all this into account. You look at like the jokes that they portray in Seinfeld, and with people always getting into it and giving each other attitude and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I think that contempt breeds more contempt. And there's always a certain level of truth that takes place within humor. That's the only reason it's so funny, is because everybody knows that New York is not a friendly place. So you might as well make jokes about it.
Yeah. Now, listeners, this doesn't mean that this case is going to be like going down in history for the list of landmark Second Amendment cases. It's kind of too early to tell, but we kind of just want to talk about it because it could be. They can, whatever the high court decides on or make changes to, it affects everything. Lawyers will start looking back at other cases, especially when it comes to pro or even anti-gun. So I think this is very important, especially if it becomes one of those landmark Second Amendment cases, because it could change all what the Second Amendment really means.
Well, and I think stuff like this is important where, you have the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association that's actually taking a stand and saying like, no, we have these certain rights and you're infringing upon our rights. So, I mean, for example, you can't even take your firearm outside of the city limits. Like, you're going to tell me where I can take my guns? Are you crazy? I don't think so. I'm going to take my guns wherever I damn well please. And this is one law I absolutely would not obey. Of course, I don't live in New York either. But so let's get in a little bit further, because there's some context to this whole thing.
Yeah. Now, the law in question said the city residents could apply for a premise license to keep the firearm in their home. Oh, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry. But they had to keep the weapons at home. Dude, this is, to be honest, I've never done a whole lot of research on New York. I don't live there, and I don't see myself ever.
Well, that was actually DC versus Heller.
Yeah.
That court case was already decided. In fact, it even says so right here in the article. The Supreme Court has not issued a significant gun rights decision since 2008's DC versus Heller. Since then, the court applied Heller, which recognized the right to possess a firearm for purposes such as home protection, to state via the 14th Amendment in 2010's McDonald versus the City of Chicago, a 2016 ruling in Caetano versus Massachusetts, which dealt with the state ban on stun guns. It did not focus on traditional firearms, but it acknowledged that the Second Amendment extends to other weapons as well. So we're not just talking about a bang bang here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, big gun, little gun, scary gun, wooden gun, black gun.
No, it's all firearms.
It all expels a means to deter the threat.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's electricity or, I mean, come on, like you're arguing over something that's so simple, so simple, such a simple-minded thing. Like, well, you know, if we just get rid of guns, then nobody would ever die from guns. Yeah, and if we got rid of ice, nobody would ever slip and break a hip. How are you going to get rid of ice?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not talking about ice like La Migra. I'm talking about like ice, like or oil. You know, I'm walking along the street and slip on some oil. Well, somebody has to pay for that.
Yeah. And so licensed owners were permitted to take their guns to one of the 7 authorized city shooting ranges if kept in a locked container. New York State Rifle and Pistol Association fought the law, claiming it was kind of unconstitutional to keep people from bringing their weapons to second homes or even ranges outside the city. So they were pretty much stuck there.
Yeah. Isn't there a court case that said something about eroding freedoms?
Yeah.
Because this sounds
I think New York was asleep.
Lot like that, where we're just no, it's okay. We're not going to take your guns. We're just going to make it so that you can't take them certain places. You can still have them. That doesn't violate the Second Amendment. No, it does, because you're basically setting all these new rules, and the Second Amendment is so clear. And you know, a lot of people they have this, and this is kind of a liberal argument where, well, you know, there's a comma in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you go in and you read the whole Second Amendment, comma, the rights of the people shall not be infringed, right? And so they're like, well, you see, there's a comma there. That means that you can actually infringe. Like that's the basis for a liberal argument for any kind of gun legislation whatsoever. And it turns into an emotional thing where they're looking at it like, but don't, even if it saved one life, wouldn't it be worth it? Well, that's a cute argument at all. But again, that goes back to my whole ice theory, where if you slip and fall on ice, then do we need to ban ice? You can't do that. Well, Jacob, you slip and fall in the bathtub and break your arm. Do we need to ban bathtubs now? That's the logic that we're looking at here. People die more in this country on a per capita annum basis, per annum basis, through what is it? Hammers, fists. Like, you can literally
nails,
beat somebody to death. And statistically, I believe that more people die from being punched than actually firearms, which is crazy. And
that kind of reminds me of a funny story when you said fist, because I just finished watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and there was an actor portraying Bruce Lee, and he said these fists are considered lethal weapons. If we fight and you get hurt and I kill you, I could go to jail.
Yeah.
And then Brad Pitt's like, well, that's manslaughter. Anyone that does that goes to jail.
Right. Well, and there's some deep truth to that as well, because, you know, if you're trained to a certain degree and your fists are actually in that category where they could be considered an actual deadly weapon, sure, you're going to be prosecuted to a different degree.
Yeah.
But again, the gun is the great equalizer, you know. And my perspective is like, okay, so like if you take a gun away from me, I'm not losing too much sleep over it. Like I can still defend myself just fine. I'm really not worried. But at the same time, if you take a gun away from, say, my wife, who stands 5'2",
Mm-hmm.
and she's just this tiny little thing, and you've got some 6'6" burly man who's coming after her, there's no equalizer there. Oh, she can use mace. Okay. I don't know about you, but if somebody pointed a little spray can at me, I probably wouldn't be too terribly concerned, and I'm going to keep focusing on my objective.
Mm-hmm.
So the gun is the great equalizer, and it, you know, that's true equality right there. You want equality across the board, the men and the women, you know, get all your equality in one bite. Buy a firearm. That's the equalizer.
Now, we're kind of surprised because, you know, while the court did agree to hear the New York City amendment, the regulation following a change in the state law, removing prohibitions against transportation on locked and loaded licensed firearms to homes, shooting ranges, competitions outside the city limits. The city and its supporters claim that the change ultimately makes the case a moot. Now, we all know which judges kind of agree to this. We all know. The one that never dies, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Elaine Keegan, and Sonia Sotomayor. Now, the reason why this case is kind of important, I think, in my eyes, is the two new appointees that we have. They've never seen a case something like this since they've been in office when it comes to gun rights. So it kind of lets us know as citizens where they lean towards for the future. What is your opinion on that, Jeremy?
Well, I mean, it's predictable to say the least. Everybody knew. I mean, good God, there's been memes about Ruth Bader Ginsburg for a couple of years now. You know, when Neil Gorsuch was put into the Supreme Court, they kind of started joking a little bit that Trump was going to get another pick for the Supreme Court. And sure enough, they got Kavanaugh as well. So it's a rough time to be a liberal if you're looking at the Supreme Court and thinking that you're going to get anything from your agenda done. Because everybody knows that Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a very left-leaning individual, and Sonia Sotomayor is very left-leaning. And I don't remember the other one. She's not popular enough for me to actually remember. But it's very well recognized and very well expected for them to apply their biases in the way that the laws are interpreted, because that's just how the Supreme Court works. And if you don't think that any of the Supreme Court judges have bias, you're high.
Yep.
You are a high. No. Of course they have bias because they see the world differently. That's why we put them in there in the first place. That's why we have Republicans. That's why we have independents and Democrats, because we all have a certain bias towards what's correct and what's not correct, or what's the right way and what's the wrong way. So I don't know why anybody's surprised about any of this. And I'm still kind of wondering if Ruth Bader Ginsburg is on life support.
She did go to the hospital again during the holidays.
No, I'm just saying I'm surprised she's still alive. She looks like hell.
Yeah, I thought she was going to pass away over Thanksgiving. I was hoping. Sorry, I don't wish death on anyone, but yeah, she was.
No. We certainly don't wish death on her. I'm just amazed that she's still. You know, what's funny is who's I think he's an astrophysicist that just passed away not too long ago. And he had, I think it was Lou Gehrig's disease he had.
Stephen Hawking.
There you go. Stephen Hawking.
All right, let's start.
The parallel, you know, I always looked at Ruth Bader Ginsburg, especially in the last couple of years, and she's starting to resemble Stephen Hawking. And I don't mean that like, you're going to die joking manner or anything like that. I mean, she literally looks like him when she's sitting down. She's slumping over, and you can tell like she's losing control of muscles in certain areas, and she just does not look good. And the thing is I don't see any Democrats coming into the White House in 2020. So if she lasts for the next 5 years, 5 or 6 years, I will be amazed. It will. I don't see it happening. And so I think what's going to happen, and this is just prediction, I have no idea I don't know if maybe Hillary Clinton's going to come along and Clinton the cider or whatever, but I see another Supreme Court justice getting selected by Trump.
Yep.
And
she has to retire.
She'll die. She won't retire. She'll die. Almost have to pull her out of the office because I don't think she wants to. I think she's like really hanging on because Trump is so polar opposite from her perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, if you live in New York, I'm really sorry to hear that. You guys, you need to get some of your freedoms back or vote with your dollars, relocate, be like Jacob and move to South Carolina. Freaking loser.
Yeah, the article's long. Feel free to read it. I don't want to go dive into the whole thing, but it's kind of important to kind of see where Gorsuch and Kavanaugh kind of lean towards too, because we picked them because of what we thought their beliefs were and constitutionalists, and I hope they are true to the Constitution, and I really want to see where this goes, because to be honest, I voted for Trump because of this here. I knew he was doing picks for the courts, so this would be kind of disappointing to see. And I'm not saying it would change my ways of what kind of way to do more research a little bit more, but this is kind of like this will be a little bit for me to pay attention to, because I'm like, okay, this is why I voted.
Can I tell you why I voted for Trump?
Why is that?
Because Hillary was running against him. I saw no alternative. I'm like, there's no way. I am not voting for a Clinton. So anyways, let's move on. Actually, this other article from Real Clear Politics that I just stumbled across here not too long ago, it doesn't stray too terribly far away from what we've just been talking about. And it's a commentary article. It was published yesterday. And the title is the Democratic Party the Real Cult? I'm sure the idea of democratic hypocrisy did not originate with him, but Tucker Carlson expressed it perfectly this summer when the nonviolent left was threatening to stab Mitch McConnell in the heart because he didn't support gun control. Quote, almost everything the left says these days is projection. They accuse you of exactly what they're doing. With that in mind, it's time to look at the latest leftist trope against conservatives and see just how it fits in the Democrats themselves. This time, it's the virulent accusation that Trump supporters are members of a cult, all 63 million of us. It's hard to know who started it for sure, but over the last month, the quote-unquote cult meme has been repeated by no less than CNN's Brian Stelter, Dan Rather, Anthony Scaramucci, and the Washington Post's Dana Milbank. Possibly that's because the former cult member cashed in. Oh, you didn't. It just freaking reloaded on me. Yeah, dirt bags. All right, sorry. Damn it, Real Clear Politics, fix your stuff. It's hard to know who started it for sure, but over the last month, the cult meme has been repeated by no less than CNN's Brian Stelter, Dan Rather, Anthony Scaramucci, and the Washington Post's Dana Milbank. Possibly that's because former cult members cashed in with a book called The Cult of Trump. Steve Hassan, a one-time quote-unquote Moonie who escaped the Unification Church's clutches in the 1970s, sees President Trump as a typical of cult leaders and shared his fears with Stelter on Latter's comically named Reliable Sources show. We can start with the pathological lying, which is characteristic of destructive cult leaders, Hassan told Stelter. The blaming others and never taking responsibility for his own failures and faults, shunning and kicking out anyone who raises a question or concern about our own behavior. Oh dear, well, I suppose that might describe Donald Trump, or it might describe any politician. Does anyone see Nancy Pelosi taking responsibility for her own failures and faults? To me, this canard sounds like it applies to the entire slate of Democratic presidential candidates. I know they don't think that they're pathological liars, but it isn't but isn't that sort of the definition of pathological? They sure do make a lot of stuff up, including an economic system that is the political equivalent of the perpetual motion of the machine, endlessly buying votes with other people's money. As for shunning, what do you call that they do on their own non-conforming candidates like Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard? Russian assets, anyone? I decided not to rely on the anti-Trump bias of Hassan and Milbank, but rather go to a real expert on cults for defining characteristics that would settle once and for all whether it's Trump's red-hatted base or the politically correct Democrats in pink pussy hats who are being brainwashed. I like the way he phrased that. Robert J. Lifton, a psychiatrist who taught at Harvard Medical School, wrote a paper titled Cult Formation in the early 1980s, where he spelled out the 3 characteristics common to all destructive cults. As interpreted by deprogrammer and cult experts Rick Ross, Lifton's work provided the baseline for determining whether or not Trump supporters are members of a cult. First up is the concept of charismatic leaders. But when it comes to politics and the notion of charisma is not considered the destructive, but rather essential. No one has argued that John F. Kennedy was the leader of a cult, nor Franklin Roosevelt, nor Barack Obama. Yet they were all possessed by undeniable charisma. It is true that among Republican presidents I'm just dying right here. It is true that among Republican presidents for the last 100 years, only one besides Ronald Reagan who can make a strong claim to being charismatic is Donald Trump, which may be why Democrats are so afraid of him. But if you're a Republican, don't panic. You don't have to start singing Hare Krishna yet. That's because Lifton included 2 other essential elements in his description of destructive cults. And for my money, they both apply to Democrats much more so than the Republicans. Those elements are a process of coercive persuasion or thought reform, commonly called brainwashing, and economic, sexual, and other exploitations of group members by the leader and ruling I don't even know that word, coterie. I don't know. So I'm not going to go. Of course, I'm not going to go through the whole article because nobody wants to sit here and listen to me try and stumble through this entire thing. But he's making some really solid points that you can spin these labels however you want to, and you can point fingers however you want to. But the fact is really, if you're looking at anybody, you're trying to paint them with that broad brush of this is more like a cult. If you're a Trump supporter, you must be worshiping Satan. Like that's kind of the direction that all of this goes. Yeah. Everybody's like, we worship Trump supporters. They hate blacks. They hate gays. They hate Latinos. They want a wall all the way around America. Actually, I wouldn't be too opposed to a wall around California.
Now, here's my question. I was listening to you talk there, Jeremy, and I wonder, when you said brainwash, it kind of dawned on me for a second, is like, I wonder if they actually do pay people to kind of do like the psychological testing, kind of like, you have your marketing crew. I wonder if they have a psychological department. And this will work to control the left a little bit more. Use this formula.
Well, think about some of the stuff that took place in the 60s. All the experiments with the LSD and the Manchurian candidates and all that stuff. I mean, it doesn't take a whole hell of a lot to get under somebody's brain or get into somebody's brain, really, and kind of tweak their thinking a little bit. Really, the talking box tells most people exactly what to think. And we've had this conversation before where I've said, listen, I know a lot of people who they'll turn on their TV and they'll go watch something like CNN or the Young Turks or MSNBC, and all of a sudden the world is falling around. It's like everything is falling apart around them. And there's no truth to that whatsoever. The world is literally not falling apart. In fact, if you go back and you look at history, right? So let's go to the climate change thing. I'm still waiting to see some real solid evidence on climate change. Of course, the climate changes. Nobody debates that. But what I'm looking for, well, anyway, I'm not getting into that. What I'm trying to draw attention to was the fact that if you go back and you look at every manufactured crisis, back in the 70s, it was CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons.
Yep.
Right. Those little spray cans. That was depleting the ozone.
Aquanet.
Yeah. Damn you, hairspray.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember that. Yeah, I was putting a hole in our ozone layer.
And then
that was the thing.
Like if you go back 10 years ago, Al Gore was giving all these speeches and he was saying like, hey, the world's going to be toast in 10 years. What are we saying right now today? We only have 12 years left. I'm sorry, if we only have 12 years left, then why are we even trying to make an effort to do anything?
Mm-hmm.
The proper way to do something is, contribute a little bit more. I have no problem with people recycling. I have no problem with people, taking care of their environment and not dumping their trash into the ocean. But to think that you can legislate that away through taxation is just plain stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it's a brainwashing that takes place. Because if you have, and this goes back to my theory where everybody has a religion.
Yeah.
You have an ideology. If you have something that you ascribe to so deeply, then you'll do anything to further it. You'll do anything to get deeper into it. Some people, like me, I go to church, I read the Bible. That's how I get deeper into my faith. And that's how I don't fall, sucker to all this other crap that they kind of throw out there at us and make us think like, well, the world's going to end in 10 years. I don't buy it. Sorry, not buying it. Give me some evidence. Give me some actual facts. Give me something that I can understand. My little simple brain, okay, bearing in mind that I'm not a scientist, find a way to explain this to my little simple brain. Prove me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Give me solid evidence. And then maybe, just maybe I'll think about worshiping at the altar of climate change. But until then, I'm calling BS because all these morons keep pushing is further taxation to help fix the climate. What? Taxes fix climate?
Yeah, if you just throw money at it, it'll go away.
Yeah. And that's the religion of the left. We need more taxes so that the government can do more for us. I don't want the government doing more for me. I want them out of my life as much as possible. And, I think that, and I'm going on a little bit of a rant here, but screw it. I think that if you actually spend 30 seconds in the government, being honest with yourself, actually looking at all of the things that occur, hell, go to the DMV and update your driver's license. How difficult of a process is that?
Yeah. And how expensive it could be. And
they make it overly complicated.
No, yeah. Dude, did I tell you what happened to my wife and I when it was time for us to renew just recently? Well, my wife and I got a letter. We went over there to our local one in our county in Denton.
Mm-hmm.
And we waited outside because there was no room inside. It was freezing cold. My wife was just not happy.
Yeah.
And something the lady could have done is go outside and tell us what the required documents were, because I did not know it changed,
Right.
That was my fault. I should have done more reading. I should have known better. But by the time it was time for my wife and I to go inside, and they asked us, all right, do you have a second form of ID? I was like, yes, we do. Okay, do you have a passport or a social security card on you or birth certificate?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, but I do have a military ID card, because that will kind of go away from that, because you do need a birth certificate.
Yeah, it's a federal government ID. I think that should work. It works as a
she,
passport.
She didn't say yes or no. She just repeated her sentence. And I'm like, so this doesn't work? And she's like, sir, if you don't have this, blah, blah, blah. And she kept repeating her sentence. I'm like, it's a simple yes or no. Is it yes, does this work, or no? And she's like, no. I'm like, thank you. Quit repeating your damn sentence at me. I could hear you just fine. So Alex was so mad. We had to leave. So we waited outside for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
We go and we eat lunch, and we go back. Luckily, I went in the safe, grabbed our passports. We went back to another DMV because my wife was not going to go back to that same one. So we went to another one that actually was in Dallas County. And the same thing. It was packed. Found one. We didn't have to stand outside. It was a little bit larger, more upkeep. And we sat there for 2 hours. And all that, by the time we got there, by the time we were done, and we left, it was 3.5 hours.
You got to be kidding me.
3.5 hours because of the new law now with driver's license, which is good. You have to be a citizen you need to have a driver birth certificate or a passport showing that you are a citizen of the United States. I don't mind that, but be a little bit more kind of simple. It shouldn't be this hard. Like,
show some clarity.
Where's this information at? Yeah, exactly. Because you don't, and then all these different forms. There's 30 forms there. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, it should be more simple, and the government does not make anything simple.
No, anytime that you want to complicate anything, just inject government into it. And especially on a grander scale, kind of like where you deal with a much larger population than I do.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go to the Department of Motor Vehicles to track down the title for my car.
I can't wait to do that. I have mine, and I've been wanting to put it to my wife's name, and I'm like, really kind of not want to do that.
So the thing is though, so DMV experiences may vary, right?
Yeah.
And of course, you know me, if I want to get something,
batteries are not included.
Batteries are definitely not included. If I want to get something done, I try to think of the most psychologically satisfying method to do it. Not for me. I don't care if I'm happy at the end of the transaction or whatever, as long as I get what I'm going after, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I waited until Friday, about 1-2 o'clock, somewhere in there.
After lunch, yep.
After lunch, everybody is fed. They're satisfied. There's not a whole lot of people in there because everybody's going back to their 9-to-5 job, a bunch of suckers. And I walked in. Of course, there's a little kiosk there. Boom, punch up, tell them exactly what I need. The lady, she was pleasant. She was nice. There was no conflict whatsoever. I was pleasant and nice back. I smiled at her. I let her know exactly what I need. I was in there for 2 minutes. They told me exactly what I had to do. And I got the whole problem solved because all I did was I thought about the best method to go about it. Whereas a lot of people don't really think these kinds of things through. Like,
that's Jeremy's psychological department. He discussed with them, and they told him, "You need to do this," and that's what Jeremy did. No, I'm just
because I've gone through so many years of counseling. Now I may as well be a certified psychoanalyst at this point. But
that's actually smart, though. I'm gonna have to give you that. I'm gonna have to try that.
But I apply everything in my life to that. Everything. Mm-hmm. How can I simplify things down to a stupid level? For example, Sam's Club, right? We talked about this in the past where Sam's Club, excuse me, Sam's Club has this scan and go now on their app.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I walk into Sam's Club. I know what I'm going for. I pull my phone out. I use the scan and go feature in the app, and I get everything that I need. I have a running tally of all the money that I'm going to spend, and I don't go through the checkout line at all because I can just check out right there on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It limits the interaction that I have to do with somebody who doesn't want to do their job or is angry or
doesn't want
whatever.
to be there. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they don't want, because they don't want to be there.
No.
Everybody knows that. Nobody wants to be there. It's a retail job. There's a reason retail sucks. Nobody wants to work retail. Right. So they're already in a bad mood because this is not how their life was supposed to turn out. And so I avoid all of that conflict right there. Well, the other side of it, I don't have to wait in line. Even at the self-checkouts, a lot of times there's a line that builds up because, you've got some 80-year-old Dexter up there who doesn't understand how to scan his groceries.
I left my checkbook in the car.
Yeah.
Who uses checkbook still?
How do I put a check in this machine? Well, you don't, Dexter. You use your debit card or cash. That's crazy. Yeah, I know, but people don't. But it simplifies my life.
And then they sit there and tell a story to the cashier. See, back in '62.
Yeah, shut up, Dexter. Get out of the way. I've got a mission. So the scan and go feature, for that reason alone, is worth the membership to Sam's Club every year. Mm-hmm. That reason alone. And furthermore, Sam's Club's business model is simplified. Okay, so you only have a handful of choices. Do you want chicken breasts or do you want chicken thighs? Or do you want drumsticks, right? I know exactly what I want for what kind of chicken I want. I know exactly what kind of cheese I want, what kind of milk I want, eggs. I don't have to go looking up and down at all, like, well, which one's the cheapest? Or no, they've done all the work for me. I don't have to waste silly decisions on stupid things like which eggs to buy. Same thing. You'll notice I wear gray t-shirts a lot. You know why? Because I've got more important decisions to make in my life than what color shirt to wear.
Yeah.
And I've modeled that after billionaires. There's a lot of people like Mark Zuckerberg. You'll notice he always wears the same thing. Steve Cook did the same, or Steve Jobs did the same thing. He always wore mom jeans and a turtleneck because he had more important decisions to make than what he looked like.
You're same here. You're not gonna catch me at like Expressmen or you know all these suit like no. What color is that? Black or blue? Got it. All right, good.
Yeah.
I don't like. I'm not gonna sit here and figure out like what stitch it is or whatever. I'm like, dude, what's the price?
Yep, that's my criteria, man. How much is it? Is it worth that much? All right. Yep. Is it a solid color? Is it? Yeah. Well, of course, I'll avoid pink because no self-respecting man should wear pink. But beyond that, if it's a solid color, if it's the right look, this shirt right here, I bought this at Academy for $3. $3.
Yep.
Can I afford $20 shirts? Of course I can.
I think my son's college is more important than what kind of shirt I'm going to buy myself.
Yeah, I don't lose sleep over that kind of stuff. I'm a jeans and t-shirt kind of guy. I want things simplified for me as much as possible because I've got bigger decisions to make. Like, I don't know.
How can I stay retired?
Yeah, how can I stay retired? How can I keep this podcast going? What kind of information are we going to talk about today? And you know, it's funny that this comes up because this is something that I think both you and I have discussed just recently on our trip to New England. You when you were going through the airport, or when we were going through the airport, you didn't have anything on you.
No,
you didn't have, the only thing you had on you was like what, your wallet with your ID and the tickets. And
and my phone.
You didn't even wear a belt.
Yeah, I didn't. I purposely wore those pants so I didn't wear a belt. I didn't wear I made sure my shoes were slipped on and slipped off. I made my life whatever can make my life easier and less stressful going through that to me, and with my PTSD, a very stressful environment. I'm going to try to do as much as I can to make because I hate dealing with people. I hate talking to people. Especially in that kind of environment. And so I'm not saying I'm antisocial or anything. I'm very outgoing, but when that kind of situation, when you know already in your mind that no one has time to talk or be nice. Yeah. They just want to get to where they want to go.
Yeah. So, TSA is high stress.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was like, all right, Jacob, and I remember it was like I actually spent like 20 minutes of my own time kind of think like, should I wear a bag? No, I'm not going to do that. That's too much time.
Yeah.
So that 20 minutes kind of made my life a little easier going through TSA.
Yeah. And now I didn't help a whole lot.
But now you learned. So you're like, man, I don't need to do that next time.
Well, I had a thought process. Now, of course, I can't go without a belt because I've got very narrow hips, and I'm naturally skinny in the lower end. So I mean, it's like, I have to have the belt. But like I thought like, how could I get rid of my wallet and my keys and the pen that was in my pocket, because you never know when you're going to need a pen. And I had my sunglasses on, and then I had my jacket on because it might get cold.
Jeremy had all kinds of stuff. He was like, wait, let me put my shoes on.
I had everything with me. I was like, man, you got all your stuff already? And you were like, well, this is all I got was my phone and my tickets,
my wallet, and that was it. Yeah, I didn't carry anything.
I had my headphones, I had my sunglasses, I had everything.
Yep.
But it's a good testament, because if you look at the way that our experience was versus the lady who was in front of us.
Oh yeah, she was upset. Yeah,
well, she was mad,
throwing the race card and everything.
Yeah, and it's funny, like to me, like if I'm looking at this situation, I'm thinking like, okay, so context here, she got stopped. And they had to do a manual search. So they basically had to get a woman to frisk her, and it held up the whole line. And of course, her first response was, well, this must just be because I'm black, because I guess black people just commit all these crimes and blah, blah, blah. And Jacob is like listening to this whole thing, and he's still got his hands up in the
I'm just like, I'm ready to go. Let's go.
And I said, what? He said that, yeah, but
And
this lady held the whole thing up.
leaning over with my ear, see if I can hear everything.
Yeah, and I'm behind him waiting to go through the scanner. I'm like, wait, what's going on? What happened? And Jacob just looks at me and he goes, she's playing the race card. She's mad because they have to frisk her. And my first thought was not because she's black, it's because she's freaking huge.
Yeah.
She's freaking fat.
Yeah.
And she's a big girl. I mean, you can hide all sorts of weird stuff underneath fat, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it was the wire in her bra too.
Oh, well,
she was big chested.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't, that would explain an awful lot if you think about it. And man, you know what? That wire should have been paid double time because that thing's working overtime.
That is funny.
Shit, whoever manufactured that bra,
yeah,
you did an amazing
should be making
job.
cars.
You should be, yeah. It's going to be the new Tesla bra.
Yeah.
Yep. Extra strength. You just charge it at night.
No, but yeah, I do as much as I can to save time. You know, just recapping what you're saying. You know, I don't have time to sit around and debate between shirts and oh man, this will go good with these jeans. Nah, just get it, man. It works.
Yeah. Black
body.
shirts, gray shirts. Sometimes I'll go with a brighter color shirt. It's rare, but sometimes I will. And my brown boots and my jeans. And it's that easy. And I go, key, wallet, phone, boom, I'm good. That's it. And you should apply this to almost every principle in your life. If you want to simplify things and clear your mind up to actually be able to make better decisions for things that really matter. You know, like your retirement account. That's a big, big decision where you want to park your money and hope that it grows, right? You don't want to just throw it in there and hope that it grows. You want to have a plan.
Instead of wasting time on your phone or iPad or whatever kind of electronic device, scrolling on what the Black Fridays or Cyber Monday deals are, use that time to go through like, what is the best way I can save on taxes on retirement accounts, or what are good college funds for my kids, or any of that stuff. Like there was not once between Black Friday and yesterday, Cyber Monday, that I looked at any retail.
Oh, I
don't have time for that.
I did have some things that I needed. Nothing even come close.
But you didn't look for like the hottest deal or wasted time to things that you didn't need.
No, I've got like what four TVs in my house as it is.
Yeah.
What do I like? How many TVs do you really need? And the same principle applies for when I have to go buy clothes. Is it on clearance? Yes, no. That's my flow chart. Is it on sale or is it on clearance? Is it really on sale or are they marking it up and then just marking it down? Yeah. So if it's legitimately on sale or legitimately on clearance, yeah, I'll pick it up. Like I said, $3 shirt. Do you think I'm losing sleep over this shirt if something bad happens to it? No, of course not. Now, but that person who went and spent $150 on a cashmere sweater, well, I bet you're being real careful about that. But are you being real careful about where you park your money for retirement?
Yep.
What about my Mercedes, Jacob? Simplify, man. I'm giving Jacob crap because he drives a Mercedes.
Yeah.
I drive a 13-year-old Toyota. It gets me everywhere I want to go just as good. Simplicity.
Yeah, I need to work on that.
Well, I mean, it's going to be really weird with you having a Mercedes out in South Carolina.
Yeah, they're going to be like looking at me.
I don't think I've trained you well enough to hang out with some of the rednecks.
Look at this bougie guy.
I think we need to go back and do a boot camp real quick because you're going to catch a lot of hell for driving Mercedes in South Carolina.
Yep.
You're going to be like, what in the hell? What are you trying to prove, boy?
And don't bring in your blue nonsense.
Y'all need to go get you a truck. That thing looks ridiculous.
And then they're going to get mad because the truck I do get is going to be the cyber truck.
Cyber truck, my God. You know what? That thing looks ridiculous as well, but we could go down a rabbit trail on this cyber truck thing. But I think you're going to be okay. as long as you don't buy a Dodge.
Yeah.
Those things fall apart in 30,000 miles or less. Pass on the Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jacob, is there any parting wisdom that you'd have for today?
No, just, this holiday, I would, especially now that if you're listening to our podcast and you've been listening to us since the beginning, don't get caught up on the American consumerism. Yes, I know it helps the economy, but be smarter. Don't impulse buy. And if you can, of all likely, shop alone. Don't be peered into doing something you don't want to do, and making sure that nothing goes on credit card. If you don't have the actual liquid, and when I say liquid, the cash sitting in your bank account or cash on hand, then don't spend the money. And that's another thing. Shop with cash if you can. That would really help you look for what's really on sale.
Yeah, there's a psychological there's a psychological thing that happens when you pay with cash and you don't get the cash back. It fires up this is a Dave Ramsey principle. He cites this all the time. There's pain receptors in the brain. And when you hand the cash over and you don't get cash back, or you get far less cash back, it fires up those pain sensors in your brain. And it makes you spend less. Whereas swiping the credit card and then pulling it right back out, you don't feel that until the end of the month when the statement comes in. Personally, I've already told my family, like, you ain't getting nothing. My kids are getting Christmas. I might buy something for my wife. I'm not getting anything. I don't want anything. I got everything I need. Don't buy me anything. And
yeah, and I told my wife, I'm like, that's pointless. Like, you can't top for what I already got for free from the school.
That's true. That's true. Plus, you would have to haul it all the way to South Carolina.
Yeah, and I was like, we're just blessed enough to get the house. I was like, that's our Christmas gift.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
And
spend it on the kid.
Yeah, and and that's one thing I was going to share with listeners. When we shop for Elon, yes, we understand he's a growing toddler and he's a boy, but when we want to see what he benefits from it. What's the return on this investment, especially on a toy? We want him to learn something from it. So that's something else to think about when you shop for your little ones.
That reminded me of a video I saw not too long ago. There was a dad. He was walking through Walmart and he had just bought some Spider-Man shoes for his kid.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady that he was with said, well, why don't you buy him something good, like some Nikes or something like that? And the man just like stopped dead in his tracks, and he turned and he looked at her and he's like, are you stupid? That toddler, my 2-year-old kid, he's going to grow out of those Nikes in 30 minutes. And he doesn't give a damn that they're Nikes.
Yeah.
In fact, these little Spider-Man shoes that I just bought for him are probably going to make him a whole lot happier than some damn Nikes that I bought off the shelf.
Check mark.
He doesn't care about the check mark. He's a kid.
Yeah.
Simplify things a little bit. He's going to grow out of them in 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And for some parents, it really feels like 30 minutes.
Yeah, it does, dude. I'm telling you. I go through shoes like crazy right now.
Do you?
Yeah. And guess what? I don't spend no more than $12.
No, because they're going to grow out of them and grow out of them and grow out of them. And then you'll have when they get older, the age where they're like, well, everybody has Nikes or everybody has Skechers or Adidas or whatever. Okay, you can have Skechers or Nikes or Adidas or whatever you want, but you got to help pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's find a way to earn it.
Yeah.
That way
So be smarter out there, ladies and gentlemen. Don't get caught. Don't get peered to do something. Don't follow the trend. Be your own person.
Damn right.
When it comes to this holiday season, and especially with shopping.
And simplify.
Yep.
And I didn't say simplify, Marines. I said simplify. Matter of fact, Marines, do some freaking push-ups.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Talk to you later.
Bye. I sound like Barry White.